So I'm in a meeting today talking about a startup that has not yet achieving scale. And somebody used this analogy of sink or swim. And I actually kind of reacted viscerally against this concept of using the sink or swim analogy, because I feel like there's no upside in sink or swim. Like, the last thing I want to be compared to is being somebody in the middle of the ocean whose only two choices are I sink and die, or I keep swimming, I keep afloat, and I don't even know where that leads me. Eventually I get tired and die. So I hate this analogy of sink or swim for startups. I think the better analogy is planes. So we got into this conversation about, think about the states you can be in. If you're on a plane, you can be at the gate. You can leave the gate and be taxiing towards the runway. You can be on the runway and trying to achieve liftoff. You could achieve liftoff. You could be climbing aggressively. You could hit cruising altitude and speed, or you could be crashing, right? Which there's always a negative scenario. But I think this is much more indicative of the journey that companies take. And it allows us to be able to say, given which phase they're at, how do we get them to the next phase? So the company in question today that we were talking about, the argument is, look, they've gotten out of the gate, they've taxied to the runway, but they're sort of stuck on the runway trying to achieve liftoff, and they're not yet doing that. And how do we get them? What are the things that are getting in the way? And what can we do to help? And our focus at Squadra at a portfolio ops level is essentially now to say, what can we do to help them break from this phase to the next phase? So part two of this conversation about this particular company that is attempting to achieve liftoff. Really important to separate that from, and this is where, again, like the phasing is very important. So on one, they're in the attempting liftoff phase. They're not trying to climb to the sky. They're just trying to get off the ground. And what that means in the enterprise sales space here is, yeah, they have their initial customers that they've formed through very intimate, close relationships. But now we're trying to prove that we could create some sort of a rinse and repeat sales process led by founders, led by the founding team. Because until we can do that, we can't do anything. We can't think about pouring on additional sales talent. We can't think about trying to alter channels and things like that. All those happen in the next phase. We are in the achieve liftoff phase. And so we start to ask ourselves a set of questions to try to figure out what are our options. So why are we not closing? What's getting us in the way of closing 2, 3, 4 customers this quarter? Is it a product issue? If it is, we've got a bad scenario, because we have literally a scenario where, look, this product doesn't work. We know that's not the case because they have happy customers who are using the product and who are expanding and are willing to pay. So all those things tell us that that's really not the problem. Well, now there's a whole nother set of customers. Is it a messaging issue? Are we targeting the wrong people? Are we using the right medium to target those people? Are we priced appropriately? Have we reduced friction enough in the cycle for people to be able to both understand the product and be able to try it, use it, and eventually buy it? Is our process and our style correct? Do we have the right team doing this, even at the founding team level? And some of these questions are sort of a bit more scary than others if we don't get the answers that we want, and they do imply different things, and each of them has a little more depth to them. So like when we're talking about targeting the right people, are we targeting them by position? Are we targeting them by tech stack already being adopted into certain platforms? Are we targeting them by industry? When we talk about using the right medium, is this an email thing? Is this a conference thing? Is this a reference thing? Is this an inbound thought leadership thing? When we talk about process and style, You know, the question again is, are we doing the right things with the team that we have, or does that lead or bleed into this, is it the right people on the team thing? So again, there's a lot of richness to all this conversation, but it's certainly, these are the kind of questions that we try to bring to the table when we're trying to think about what can we do differently to achieve the next phase.